Hi folks. So the main thing that I'm going to ask you to investigate this in this module is the Webquest. And so I think some of you have done Webquest maybe, and some of you maybe don't know what Webquests are. So I've given you some information here. I'm going to walk you through this, but let me just give you a little bit of narrative about Webquests. So Webquests is a lesson format that was developed by Dr. Bernie Dodge from San Diego State University. It's been around for a long time. It's one of the very first tools that was used to harness the power of the internet. And it's really interesting that it's still around today and still being used widely because it's very it's universal. So it's one of the main characteristics of a WebQuest is that it's inquiry-based. So students are exploring, looking for things in inquiry-based activities. They don't just memorize facts and retell them to you. They're expected to take the information they find, interact with it, and transform it into new information that has meaning to them. This is very much socio-constructivism theory at work here. And with Webquest, students can create meaningful projects that they can share with others via oral presentations or posting to the web. So the product of a Webquest should not just stop at being a product. There should be some sharing, maybe with through another kind of a digital story or a podcast, posting to a course management site, having some sort of a presentation fair, but there should be something done with the product when it's finished. Webquests are different from other web-based tools because they focus on one engaging and achievable task. So I'm sorry, they don't focus on just one engaging and achievable task. They go beyond simply answering questions. They should require higher order thinking skills. We looked at Bloom's taxonomy, things like creativity and analysis, synthesis, judgment, and problem solving. The task in a WebQuest can be almost anything. So for example, students might be asked to design a monument representing one of the branches of government, or they might be asked to write, perform, and record a radio play. So it could be anything here, but you want to be inventive and you want students to be creative while having the learning outcomes should be aligned with your standards. So it's not just out there. It is an integrated part of your unit of study. Another key component of a WebQuest is that the links that students use are pre-selected by you. So this is not just sending students out to the internet to find information. So you have to do your homework and finding the links that you want them to investigate in order to complete the task that you're giving them. So the focus then is on using the information rather than looking for it. We know how easy it is to get lost on the internet. And a lot of teachers avoid using the internet just because of that reason. So a WebQuest is a controlled place for students to get to the sites that you want them to get to. So they avoid inappropriate sites, they avoid the roadblocks, and so forth and so on, because you've already evaluated the websites and vetted them for student use. Okay, so that's just a little bit about what a WebQuest is. So what kinds of things can you do with it? Well, I'm going to show you, first of all, this link is the resource from what I just took that information. In fact, I read some of it verbatim right from here. So I want you to please work through this website. What is a WebQuest? Again, I just read you some things right from here. Who should use it? Why should I use a WebQuest? The key elements, additional WebQuest, designing a WebQuest, and resources, and so forth. So this is a tool for you. Make sure you're using it. Okay. So you're going to use a platform called Zoonal to create your website. And here's the link. So when I click on this, it takes you to Zoonal. And I'll warn you, Zoonal's a little slow, okay? I'm already logged in, but you will need to, I'll log out so I can show you. You will need to register, okay? It's a free account. You can pay for a Zoonal account, but that you don't need that. You only need to create one WebQuest. So a free account will allow you to create one WebQuest. So that's all you need. So you click here and register, okay? That's all there is to that, okay? All right, so I'm going to leave that for a moment. And so I've created a WebQuest for you, that guides you through making a web quest. And within this web quest are resources for you. So this is what Zona looks like. So WebQuest, the key elements, and all WebQuests need these. They need an introduction. Okay, there's a place for an introduction. They need a task, process, evaluation, and conclusion. So this platform is all set up for you to do that. Now there's some other things down here that you don't need, okay? You can, if you want to, have some information about your author, but this is the part that I want you to pay attention to. So on your welcome page, this is where the introduction is usually, you know what, this didn't update, so just give me a second. I'm going to log out of here and log back in. I'm going to log in so that you get, bear with me just a moment here. Okay, so you can see this is my account. Okay. That didn't update. I'm a little annoyed by that. But anyway, okay, so we're going to go on here. So you have a welcome page that just describes what's happening here. So the description, the grade level, curriculum, keywords. This is not the most important page, but do fill it out and make sure you put an image in. It's very important to have good aesthetics here. And then your introduction is the place, and again, Zuno's a little slow. Don't get upset. I think a lot of people are using it. Here we are. The introduction is usually a short paragraph that introduces the activity to the students. It often has a role or a scenario involved. So your web quest can be completed individually by students, but more often they're completed in groups. So groups of 3 or 4 complete a web quest together. It can be the same web quest, and maybe with a different function. So you could have different roles. So one group could have a certain role, another group could have another role. And I've just given you some information here about, this is my introduction, and you can certainly read this. You can see at the bottom, you can add resources along the bottom here. And when you click on this, you can add basic, you can add a content section, a website, a file, a photo. You can add different videos from various places. You can add some Web 2.0 tools, and you can add multiple files and links here. Usually you don't attach any resources in the introduction. This is just helping students to know what's happening. The task informs the learners of what their end result or culminating project will be. Okay, so this tells them what they're going to do. Your task is to create a web quest. The web quest should be easily accomplished in 1 or 2 days, okay? You don't want to make this a big, huge project. They can be very big projects. They can take weeks, but I want yours to stay pretty small. I've been emphasizing small all semester because it's easy to get carried away with this. So think again about your unit plan and what your topic is, what your goals are, and how will your web quest fit into this? What learning outcomes will you assign to your web quest? And what content area will your students be examining? So you'll be using ISTE standards for the actual technology being used, but you're going to be using content standards for what you want them to learn. Okay? And I'm going to show you and help you sort of explore some of the web quests that are already available in Zuno so you can see how some people are doing these. All right? So this is where you put your task. That's the end result. Some people get carried away and put the whole process in here, but that's not the point of this one. This is just tell them what they're going to finish up with, okay? The process is the most important one because this is where you identify the steps that students will go through to accomplish the task. So you have to be very clear about that, all right? You're going to have, a process for them, and I've given you a process here, okay? Your process is first to identify the topic, focus, or question that'll guide, determine what the final project will be, what's the process they will go through to get to that final project? What web resources will they use? Will they work together or in groups? Create a draft of your web quest, including introduction, task, process, and process. This should be an evaluation. And then create a rubric to evaluate the final project. Remember, if this is a summative assessment, if you on your unit template plan have indicated the web quest is a summative assessment of learning outcomes, then that web quest needs to align with that. So if it's say, let's look at social studies, if you have 3 social studies standards that are associated with this web quest as a summative assessment for assessing student mastery, that's what you'll do here. They'll be doing the work to demonstrate They understand those standards, okay? So just make sure that you're doing that. We're going to talk about rubrics in a little bit, so don't worry about that right now. And then write the conclusion. Now, I've given you resources. This is where you give students resources, okay? So here is creating a website. You're going to click on that. This is different than the one I gave you earlier. All right, here's some more information that you'll investigate from Education World. What Webquests really are. Again, you'll read this and get some more information. This is to help you to think about those higher order learning thinking skills. And then voila, look, here's a YouTube video that shows you how to create a Webquest using Zoodle. And this particular narrator has created a social studies unit for grades 6 through 8 about Gettysburg. And this is a very, very good, easy to understand YouTube video. So I want you to watch that, okay? That will help you as well. The next piece is evaluation. This is where you tell students how their performance will be evaluated. And it's often in the form of a scoring rubric. So that's what we're going to be talking about now, okay? So for whatever product you are asking students to produce here, you're going to create a rubric aligned with your standards, okay? So that if it's an ISTE standard, then you're going to set that up as well. If it's a content standard, you're going to have that as well. And I'll talk a little bit more about Webquest in another little module on the Blackboard site. Okay, I've given you a rubric. All right. So, and I've told you that the main Common Core teaching standards associated with this project are these two NET standards. These are teacher standards. Okay. When you click on this, you will see, you'll open up a Word document that is the rubric by which I will judge and score your Webquest. You can see that we have the welcome, the title page, introduction, the task, the process, the resources, evaluation, conclusion, and teacher page. Okay. All right. I'm not so worried about the teacher page. Okay. But that's the rubric that I'll be using. Okay, I'm going to close that out. The conclusion is simply that. It summarizes what the learners have accomplished by completing the Webquest, and it often provides additional opportunities to extend thinking. All right. I've not given you additional opportunities to extend thinking here. I've just given you a nice little conclusion. The teacher page, I would like to have you do this. I'm not going to include it in the I'm not going to include it in the rubric, even though it's on the rubric, because it's just a little bit, it's just an extra thing to do. But it would be great if you wanted to do that, all right? It just gives you a sense of what they're going to accomplish. I think your rubric will do that. So feel free to do this. I have not done this page. Feel free to do it, but you don't have to do it, okay? And I'm not going to include it on the rubric, even though it's on there, okay? All right. So I'm going to go and look at a few other, do some browsing. All right. So you can look at what other people have done for Webquest and maybe, get some ideas. All right, so which content area shall I pick on today? I'm going to pick on health, and I'm going to look at grades 9 through 12. There are 372 of them. Now, not all Webquests that you find here are going to be good Webquests. I just want you to know that. Not everybody does a perfectly great Webquest, but, some of them are pretty good. Okay, so why isn't that opening? Try it this way. 9, 12. I'll put health here. I guess that was just... Okay. I'm going to health PE. All right, so I'm going to narrow that a little bit more. So here are some Webquests that have been done for grades 9 through 12 for health. They all look pretty good to me. I'm going to look at this one because diets are always important curriculum for high school students. So this is about eating a healthy, balanced diet. You can see that this is the author, Gabby Wolf. Her introduction explains what is going on here. The task. I like that picture, by the way. Your task with this lesson will be to come up with ways you change small things in your diet. Okay, so this is not a good web quest, folks, because she's not, well, I won't say that because a journal entry for each day. All right, so let's see what she says on the process, because a web quest should be using the internet. And this one's not using it very much. Okay, so she's using the format to create a lesson plan, but the only resource she's using is the choosemyplate.com. So while this might be a good lesson plan, I'm not thinking it's a great web quest because it's not doing what it should do. So I'm going to go back and look at another one. See if I can find one that's, let's look at 6 through 8, and let's pick on social studies and see what we find. Let's look at this one. This one looks like it'd be interesting. Again, we have the welcome, the introduction. Okay, so this is a good introduction because look at it's really kind of grabbing you. Are you hungry, thirsty, and cold, but there are no McDonald's around? What would you do? And this is travel along with Native Americans on their Trail of Tears. In this web quest, you will become a Native American who is forced to relocate. So this is presenting a role and a scenario. The task is, all right, so this is a better one, okay? After visiting each provided link, write a 1 to 2 page essay pretending to be a Native American who's been forced to relocate, all right? You should use information from the links provided as well as your own imagination. All right, so let's look at the process. This is where she should be giving the links. Okay, she does, so this is good. All right, so she's using this much more in the spirit, all right? And she's embedded her links right in the narrative rather than putting them at the bottom where you can add them, and you can certainly do that. That's up to you how you want to structure that. Okay, so there are 4 modules that need to be completed. This is where you get to pick a tribe, okay, and here she has the 5 tribes, the questions that she wants them to consider, and then choosing a name and gives a link to be able to do that. And then, the Indian Removal Act of 1830 is the topic here. So this is giving some information on that. She's got a web quest for them to go to. And then the last module, she's learning about food, weather, exhaustion, disease, Mississippi River, actual count. So lots of questions to consider there. This is a better, it's not a great, perfect one, but it's better. The evaluation page, it's her rubric, okay, her evaluation rubric. It does not appear that she's using standards, and I do want you to use standards in your rubric, okay? You can have some evaluation for, no, you can't. It needs to be standards-based because we're working with mastery here, so it does need to be standards-based. It can be in student-friendly language. And then here is her conclusion. So this is a better one, but So my point is that you can browse your web quest. You can, and this tells you how many you can find in each one. You could even look at some of the college web quests that are available. Social studies seems to have the most. I think maybe social studies is a very research-oriented discipline. So, but there are lots of English language arts. Look at the English here. We could search WebQuest for English on 912, English language arts, and we've got tons here. So we could filter it if we wanted to look specifically. If we wanted to look at all just Shakespeare and see how many are there. Okay, there are 94. All right, it's a lot to look at. Okay, but the point is that spend some time looking at some of these web quests because they'll help you think about how you might want to create your own web quest. All right, and make sure that you look at my web quest for the resources to help you create yours. All right. Okay, I'm going to close these out and go back to the module. And that's all you need for the web quests. If you have any questions, let me know.